Glenn, well, I'm glad to see you here today with us. Glad to be back with you. It has been a interesting last 2 weeks. I want you to know I missed you. I really did. This was one of the more difficult trips to Cuba we've had in the past. In case you haven't heard about it, the nation had a complete failure of their electrical grid 2 days before I left. There was no power anywhere in the country, except for those few people who own generators. You didn't have any lights, didn't have any air conditioning, didn't have a fan, refrigerators didn't work. Pretty rough time. Now, they did get it working some while I was there. You know, the power would come on for a couple hours at some odd hour, and then it would go off again and be off for 8 or 10 hours. Then it might come back on for an hour or two. They're going through a rough time, and food is in short supply, very short supply. So they're suffering. On top of that, on the west end of the island, they had a hurricane come through. Now, the government, which can never be trusted, said that 7 people died in the hurricane. They did not. They underestimated that figure by a lot. And there were hundreds of people missing. Because, as I said, they had no power. They got no warning. When it was coming in, when it was going to hit, we know a week in advance. Hurricane's going to hit here at this time. They had none of that. And a lot of people were just in their bed when the hurricane hit. And it was pretty bad. This is going to be a different lesson than your normal lesson. This is the second trip that we've had to Cuba this year. Robert and I went, back in April. Last week of April, first week of May, I believe it was. And usually we give a report when we come back. And we usually do it on a Sunday night. But we didn't find time to do it this year for that trip. And so I decided we're going to have a Cuban report today. I want to show you some pictures. And for the lesson, I want to show you how we teach. It's very simple. It's something we all need to know. It was interesting. I would prefer to have had Robert with me. I'm sorry that he's not able to go. But they miss him. And I'll show you how much in just a minute. I have a lot of pictures I took. I can't give you pictures from both trips. We don't have enough time. But I'm going to show you a few today. But let me tell you, they hold Robert in very high regard in Cuba. He made 30 trips there, 40 trips over there in 30 years. They know him well, and they miss him. Every prayer I heard, his name was Mitchell. So, I got a little cold too while I was there, so excuse me if I cough a bit. I want you to understand how the gospel is shared in Cuba. When I arrived there, there's a picture. I went to visit this lady at her house, and I can't blow it up for you, but the picture she's holding is a picture of her and Robert when he baptized her over 20 years ago. I'll get there in a minute. When I got there, I first went to the city of Cardenas, where Abel is the preacher and his wife Cindy, they work very close together. And the night before I got there, they'd had basically a riot in the city. People were upset that there was no power, upset that the food wasn't coming in, upset that things were so bad. So there was a huge police presence while I was there. And the president of the country had issued an order that anybody that caused any trouble was going straight to jail, maybe to prison. So it was a little frightening that first night. I got there a day late. I was supposed to get there Friday. Because of the hurricanes, I didn't get there till Saturday. Plane got in about 9:30. I barely got off the plane and got a ride to the Bell's house where the church is. And they already had people there, ready for a Bible study. I didn't have time to drink a cup of coffee or do anything. I had to go right into a Bible study. There were several people there, but this lady responded. She was baptized. Is a sweet, sweet lady. Very happy to be baptized. This is because of you. That was the meeting where we had the class. Now, I know I can't blow it up big enough, but the lady on the left is Cindy's mother. She's just recovering from cancer surgery. Several of those are members there. The lady in the back is the Bell's sister. Just very interesting people. All of these, except for one, are Christians. A few more. This was for worship Sunday. A few more came in after I took this picture. And the lady that I baptized the day before came in. Churches are small there. You know, one preacher may preach 5 or 6 times during the day on Sunday, because he'll start preaching in one village in a small church, and he'll deliver a sermon, and as soon as he's through, he jumps on his motorcycle or his bicycle or whatever he's got to transport himself. He goes to another village and preaches it again. And he goes to another village and preaches again. Preacher's work there is hard. I'm glad you don't make it that hard on me. This was, I think, Tuesday after I got there. We worshiped Sunday. I delivered my sermon. You know, we had some Bible study. And this is Adonis. The first lady I showed you, her name was Daisy. That's not the way to say it in Spanish, but her name's Daisy. This is Adonis. He sat down with me for a Bible study and was gladly baptized. You might wonder about that, where we are. There's one lady in Cardenas that has a swimming pool. That's the baptistry. And the water is cold. You get into that water, you're shivering. We're holding on to each other there just so we can stand up. But anyway, I was glad to be able to study with Adonis and for him to be baptized. This is what I took a picture of this to show you what poor people eat. When food gets short, the one thing they can get is this cornmeal-like substance. And they make a soup with it. And it ain't good. The texture is something I'm totally unused to. It's sort of like, well, cornmeal cooked in a little oil, you know. And they don't use a lot of seasoning in it. But they wanted me to share with them, and I did. And that is a bell there on the left here. He's the preacher. The young boy closest to the here is Fabian. That's his son. And the other man is a member of the church, Robert. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in a minute. But they're very sharing people. Most of the time we didn't eat this. Ate a lot of rice. I gained 5 pounds while I was there. This is Robert and his mother. He's not married, and he dotes over his mother. He's one of the best sons I've ever met. She has a very